So the story of Sword Art Online goes a little something like this. There was a big game that came out by the name of Sword Art Online. It's this big virtual MMO, everybody's buying it, everybody's raving about it, and the players go in, they're playing, they're having fun, but then they realize, wait a minute, there's no logout button. Baffled by this sort of glitch in the game, they all gather to this one spot where the creator of the game manifests himself into this like giant man and tells them that he purposely did not put a login button to test their sort of skills in this game, and he mentioned that if they died in the game, they die in real life. And basically we follow this kid who was actually a beta tester for the game by the username Kiriko, and his adventures as he meets people, gains experience points, and beats the level bosses as he reaches the top and defeats the game Sword Art Online. So this is one of my most highly requested animes for me to review. All of you have been asking me saying, hey, when are you going to watch Sword Art Online? When are you going to review Sword Art Online? Hey, it just finished. Because normally I do not watch an anime that's still ongoing. I wait for it to be finished, then I give a full-length review of how I thought of the entire series. And as for what I thought about the entire series, I really enjoyed it. And I bet some of you are wondering, wait, why are you not going to say the names? Because there were so many people who asked me to review this that I lost count. But for all of you who asked me to review this anime, you know who you are, and thank you. I really enjoyed this anime. Now let's get into the review. First thing to mention, and this is so obvious, I don't know why I keep mentioning it, but the animation is quite stunning. It really was fluid. I really liked the animation. It was vibrant. It was vivid. I loved everything about the animation. And going hand in hand with the animation, the action scenes were very riveting, compelling, and fun to watch. When they're taking down a boss, when they're doing duels, when they're flying in the air, the action scenes are awesome and entertaining. An aspect that I really appreciated in this anime is I loved how they did the contrast between being in the virtual world against being in the real world. The real world is more down to earth. It's a little more gray and the colors are a little toned down. It's not as vivid and bright as in the virtual world. The virtual world is very, like I said, vivid and bright. It's this grand scale. It just feels so epic when you're in there and you just want to go out and adventure against. In the real world, it's kind of just like you're going through the same old, and it's kind of dreary and a dull atmosphere. It really highlights the fact that it gives some people the escape from reality, from their dull and uninteresting lives, and gives them something interesting and something grand to look at. There were a lot of good character developments to a degree, and I'll get to that later, and I liked how when a character died, it really was impactful. It wasn't meaningless. Throughout the entire anime, they make references or even show flashbacks of characters that have passed away, and I liked how their deaths were meaningful. They had a point to them. They weren't just, oh, they died and we totally forgot about them. No, it was impactful. It really altered the psyche of our character, and we saw him grow more as a character and mold into the person that he would later on become. And it's from the deaths and the experience that he went through that really changed him as a person and as a character, and I liked how all the deaths mattered. And yeah, speaking of characters, I really enjoyed most of the characters, especially our two main characters of Kiriko and Asuna. I thought they were awesome. They worked well together. They were fun to watch, and there were these two side characters that really stood out from the bunch, and the first one being Lisbeth. I just found her really entertaining, and I really related to her, and I felt the dilemma that she went through with the unrequited love thing, so I really liked that character. And the second side character is Yui. She is so damn cute. I just wanted to like pinch her face every time I saw her on screen. She is a adorable character. The relationship between Kiriko and Asuna I thought was really beautiful, well executed. I really rooted for them to grow as a couple, and I loved their development. Episodes 10 through 14 are without a doubt my favorite in the entire series because that really focuses on their relationship, and they go to like this other section in the game where it's basically them two and Yui, and I just loved that whole calm atmosphere, the playful atmosphere they had. It was just a blast to watch those 5 episodes. And lastly, the musical score was fantastic. It really gave me the feeling of being in a video game. And it was made by the same person who did the score for Noir and Puella Magi Modica Magica. I'll put her name right here in a picture so that you guys can get a refresher. But she did the score again, and I'm like, no wonder why I fell in love with this score. It's fantastic. She does a fantastic job. And although I liked a lot of things in this anime, there are a few things that kind of bothered me. First being the time jumps. Now there are moments in the anime, especially in the first half of the anime, where there's just a huge gap of time that just passes. Like you have one episode, and then the next episode will take like 5 or 6 months after that episode, and you miss out on the development and how the character grew into that character that he is now. And I really would have liked more like scenes of his development in those time jumps. I would have liked to see more of Sword Art Online in these time jumps. And going back to what I mentioned about character development, most of the side characters, you see them once and then they're gone from the entire anime until like maybe the last episode. And that really bothered me because it's such wasted potential. I mean, we could have saw them grow more as characters, interact with more characters, or even help in some missions, but we really didn't get any more development other than that one scene, and then they're gone until like the last episode, and you totally forgot they were in the anime. Especially Lisbeth. I would have loved to see her develop more as a character. I really wanted to know more about her character. You know, what did she do outside of Sword Art Online? How did she meet Asuna and all that stuff, and it really was lacking, and she wasn't really in the anime. She had one episode that she was the main focus of, and then she was gone. She made a few appearances here and there. Maybe in the light novel they develop her a little better, but I never read the light novel. I only watched the anime, and in the anime they just didn't develop her as much as I would like. And now to get to probably the biggest con of this anime for most people, and this is not my biggest con, but it did bother me, and that is the second half of this anime. Now, that's not to say that the second half was not interesting or engaging. It was interesting, it was engaging, but comparing it to the first half, it just wasn't as engaging as the first half of this anime. And without giving away any spoilers, I'll just say this: fairies play a huge role in the second half of this anime, and that's all I gotta mention. But not only that, but the second half of the anime felt like a very cliche and generic anime story. I mean, the villain was cliche, the journey was cliche. You've seen this before, and you've seen it happen before, you've seen this love triangle before, you've seen a lot of this before. And like I mentioned earlier, the second half of this anime was just not as engaging and as compelling as the first half of the anime, because in the first half of the anime, you really were invested on these characters to survive. I mean, they couldn't log out of their game, and they had that threat of death looming over them, so you really were like biting your nails hoping that they can survive this terrible dilemma. In the second half of the anime, they had the ability to log out of their game, and when they died, they were resurrected. It's not like, oh, they died, they're never gonna come back. In fact, there are scenes where they're having duels, and there'd be like this awesome takedown, and even the enemy team's like, yeah, that was pretty impressive. They can log out. I mean, there was nothing really nail-biting or knuckle anxiety moments in the second half of the anime. I really didn't get invested in the incestuous romance between Kiriko and Suga. I mean, I just don't like incest. Now, if you are okay with incest, or you really like incest in anime, that's all fine and dandy. For me, I just don't like it. For me, I would have loved to see like just a brother and sister bond. Why can't we have that in animes? Why can't we show that more in animes? And the last thing that really bothered me was the lack of backstory of Asuna. I really would have liked to know what her life was before Sword Art Online. What was her hobbies? What did she do? And also a lack of backstory for Kayaba, the creator of Sword Art Online. I really would have liked to know what was going through his mind when he thought of creating Sword Art Online. What was the purpose? What was his drive? And he kind of gave a little notion of that in episode 14, but it wasn't enough. I really would have liked to know more. And also, during the times in the first half of the anime where they're in Sword Art Online, you don't see like the outside world, I would have really loved to see what he was doing while everybody was in Sword Art Online. You know, what was going on in the real world? Were they trying to find him? Where was he? Stuff like that just, I felt like was irritating that they didn't really highlight that in the anime. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed Sword Art Online. I really got invested to the characters. I really enjoyed the story. The animation is awesome. The musical score is brilliant. And I'm going to give this anime a 4 out of 5 stars. It's definitely worth watching. But anyway, what did you guys think of this anime? Did you like it a lot? Or did you find it dull and interesting? You didn't get into it? And did you think it copied Dot Hack Sign? Because I've never seen the anime, but for those of you who have seen Dot Hack Sign, I would like to know, how does it compare to Dot Hack Sign? Is it similar or is it not? Comment below, let me know.